So just 2 days ago, I made a video in regards to the pro sports athletes, especially in the NFL, kneeling and how this is a big old controversy in the United States. And I showed the gematria of why it is important that this is happening with Donald Trump being the president. And what I'm going to show in this video is gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words. And before you dismiss anything I say, please go to the description of this video and I'll leave a link called How to Gematria. You'll get a better understanding of what I am talking about, why I am talking about it. But this system of coding numbers into words is used every single day in our media. It is used to script our sports leagues. Our history is all by this same code. And there are people such as the Freemasons, you know, they're interrelated into the Jesuits. They all understand this system. A lot of these high celebrities understand this system because it's interrelated into Kabbalah. That is the practice of, coding numbers into words. It's Jewish mysticism. Basically, they believe that God created the world by merging the letter with the number, which explains a lot more why back in the day all of the languages had a number associated with their character. The Hebrew alphabet had a number associated with it, the Greeks, the Romans, and so on. So anyway, I'm going to do a quick recap here of some of the 88 stuff in regards to why everyone is kneeling and it's such a big deal when Donald Trump is the president. And then I'm going to show you why Justin Timberlake was chosen to perform the halftime show and how it is interrelated into the national anthem stuff. And it goes back to Super Bowl 38 when Janet Jackson's boob got shown with Justin Timberlake performing with her or whatever. So the reason that all of this is happening with Trump being the president is because Trump in gematria equals 88. And if you've been following the media and following even, storms that are going on, such as Hurricane HARVEY, HH. H is the 8th letter of the alphabet, so HH, Hurricane HARVEY. It's a lot like an 88. That's why we just got the death of Hugh Hefner. That's why in the Charlottesville thing, there was the big neo-Nazi rally, and the only girl that died was Heather Heyer, HH. The national anthem was signed into Congress on March 4th of 1931 when Herbert Hoover was the president, HH. He was also the president during the stock market crash, and in October this year, it will be the 88th anniversary of the stock market crash. So, knowing all of that, in gematria, the Star-Spangled Banner also equals 88. And the guy who started all of this kneeling stuff was Colin Kaepernick. That equals 88. And the word kneel equals 88. The national anthem, being written as the poem The Defense of Fort McHenry by Francis Scott Key, it was inspired by the Great Garrison Flag. Great Garrison Flag equals 88. It was at the Battle of Baltimore, which was in Maryland, one of only 2 states that equals 88, the other one California. Think about that in regards to the 49ers, where Colin Kaepernick plays, or where Colin Kaepernick did play. And in regards to Trump being compared to Hitler and all kinds of stuff, Hitler, Heil Hitler, HH, that's why 88 is so important. And just things like Ku Klux Klan. Ku Klux Klan equals 138 in gematria, just like Donald Trump, 138. Super fitting. Just last night I discovered something about Hitler. His book Mein Kampf, 88 in gematria. And if you look up the book, if you look up Mein Kampf, it says that it was released on July 18th of 1925. I'm assuming in Germany, right? 18/7 in gematria. 18/7 is the date. Look at Adolf Hitler, 187. And it says that this book came out in Germany on July 18th, 1925, and then the abridged version was published in English October 13th, 1933, which was a span of 8 years, 88 days even. So, it's super important. It's being used. And in regards to all of that 88 being said, the Super Bowl this year is played in U.S. Bank Stadium. That equals 88. So it's definitely super important. That's why a lot of this kneeling stuff is happening, and we're getting it during the time of Donald Trump. But the reason that we're getting Justin Timberlake at the halftime show is because in Super Bowl 38, he came out singing. They were doing the Rock Your Body song with Janet Jackson, and at the very end, he supposedly accidentally ripped down her shirt and it exposed her boob or whatever. And it's funny because just the other night I had this information pulled up. I was talking about Janet Jackson. I didn't talk about it in my video, but I was looking at old information from a post from last year. And wardrobe malfunction, what they called it, wardrobe malfunction equals 88. And it was in Super Bowl 38, which is really important to Minnesota, where the Super Bowl will be played this year. Super Bowl 52. Minnesota in gematria equals 38. LII in Jewish gematria, 38. If you write out 52, it equals 38. If you write out Super Bowl LII, what it's going to be called, it equals 163. 163 is the 38th prime number. U.S. Bank Stadium, the small y, equals 38. And think about it, in 2018, 20 plus 18, 38. And Justin Timberlake, the guy who performed in Super Bowl 38, is going to perform in this Super Bowl now too. And 52 is also important to Minneapolis and Minnesota. Minnesota equals 52 in the reverse method. It's Super Bowl 52. There was one other thing I wanted to point out in regards to HH and Minnesota. And the old stadium used to be Hubert Humphrey Stadium in Minnesota. HH, right? Hubert H. Humphrey in gematria equals 88, who it was named after. U.S. Bank Stadium equals 88. So, interesting stuff. But the real reason that Justin Timberlake was chosen for this halftime was because of the Janet Jackson stuff. And just before Justin Timberlake came out on stage in Super Bowl 38, Janet Jackson had played 2 songs off of her album, Rhythm Nation 1814. And she played the song The Knowledge and also the song Rhythm Nation right before Justin Timberlake came out. And the reason that's important, look at the name here, Rhythm Nation 1814. 1814 was the year the national anthem was written by Francis Scott Key. And she even admits that in her deal. That's why they use the number 1814. Represents the year the national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner, was written. Also read through here what it says. Several critics noted that R, rhythm, and N, nation, are the 18th and 14th letters of the alphabet, though Jackson said this was coincidental. Yeah, coincidence, always. Janet Jackson has no idea about this system going on. What a bunch of crap, And they wrote that in here on Wikipedia because they write the dumbest crap on Wikipedia, all the time. Why do people even need to know that? And if you've been following what I've been talking about for years now, this is really going on. And that is truly why she named the album Rhythm Nation, R and N, 1814. Also, another interesting thing about this album that I just discovered yesterday was that this album was actually produced and recorded in Minnesota at Flight Time Studios in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I never did look up Flight Time Studios. Let's look that up really quick. Flight Time, what was it? Was it that way? Was it that way? Hold on. Flight Time Studios. Flight Time, look at that. 131. How fitting. Super Bowl. 131. Justin Timberlake's birthday. January 31st. It's just such a joke. Flight Time Studios. Wow. Flight Time 131. Justin Timberlake. I'll show you real quick. Born on January 31st. A lot like 131. The word Super Bowl equals 131. Championship equals 131. Twin Cities equals 131. Minneapolis and St. Paul, the Twin Cities. This story of Justin Timberlake going to perform at the halftime show this year came 239 days after his birthday. 239 is the 52nd prime number. Super Bowl 52. Minnesota equals 52. Remember, if you write out 52, it equals 38, just like the last time. The last Super Bowl that he performed in. He's also married to Jessica Biel, who is from Ely, Minnesota, which is interesting. Born on 3/3/33. Janet Jackson equals 33 in gematria. I pointed out that her name, Jessica Biel, equals 203. And right now we're in the 203rd year of the national anthem being written, or the defense of Fort McHenry. Francis Scott Key also died 203 days with the end date before his birthday. And this is the 203rd year of the national anthem. There's a whole lot of other stuff I documented in here, like Justin Timberlake being born in 1981. And the day we got this news was on the Jesuit anniversary. Pope Francis, the first Jesuit pope. Donald Trump went to a Jesuit university, Fordham University. They're born 187 days apart. Society of Jesus, what they call that, Society of Jesus, equals 187. Donald Trump's national convention last year began on 18/7 in Cleveland. That's why it's important to LeBron James talking crap about him and everything else. They even visited the White House on the same day, LeBron and Donald Trump, just after Trump was elected. 18/7. Trump became the president 187 days after that national convention began. Remember I said Adolf Hitler equals 187. Washington, D.C., 187. George Washington, 187. Because our nation was a Freemason, Jesuit, these people in high places, people ruling over us. Our nation was created by these people. Notice George Washington, also 88 in gematria. Anyway, Justin Timberlake, born in 81. Yesterday was 81 days before Pope Francis's 81st birthday. Francis Scott Key, the guy who wrote the national anthem, born on August 1st, 8/1 or 1/8. Remember, we're told Kim Jong-un by Dennis Rodman. He was born on January 8th, which in most parts of the world they write it as 8/1. Also, the Swiss records say that Kim Jong-un's birthday is July 5th. If you go from January 8th to July 5th, it's a span of 187 days. I also pointed out, if you write out Francis Key, it equals 111, and he died on January 11th. A lot like 111. Pope Francis's real name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, equals 111. Last year I was talking a whole bunch about Pope Francis's visit to the United States that ended on the Jesuit anniversary in Philadelphia, which is one of these 7 churches that are mentioned in the Bible, and they mentioned the Key of David, right? Francis Scott Key. If you say it fast, it sounds a lot like Francis Got Key. So I just noted that in here. Francis Got Key equals 63. The Key of David equals 63. Justin Timberlake equals 63. Francis Scott Key died at the age of 63. I have a typo there, but what it's supposed to say is, in 2018, it will be the 175th anniversary of Francis Scott Key dying, which is important to Pope Francis and why this story of Justin Timberlake came out on the Jesuit anniversary. Pope Francis equals 175 in reverse. If you write out 175, it equals 307. 307, the 63rd prime number. So, something more I need to keep following and look more into, but I've been talking a lot about the number 63 and how it's synced up to priests and the Jesuits for, probably 5 months now. or maybe not quite that long. There's sometime in May, towards the end of May, I was talking about that. The number 63. I also pointed out that Francis Scott Key died 119 days after writing the Star-Spangled Banner poem. The Star-Spangled Banner in reduced reverse equals 119. Think about that in regards to 9/11, the reverse 9/11. Also, you know, all-seeing eye, Star of David, equal 119. I also pointed out that if you go from the Super Bowl this year to Janet Jackson's 52nd birthday, just think about that, Super Bowl 52, it's a span of 3 months, 12 days, which is this big number that I've been talking about that is connected to the Jesuits. Just the word Pope, Pope equals 52 in the alphabetic order, but in Sumerian gematria, you multiply everything by 6. And that is also used, and it is important to this year in regards to Jesus and everything else. Let me just show you why it's important to this year. Let's find Sumerian here. In 1984, it was the 444th anniversary of the Jesuits on September 27th. And the word Jesus equals 444. Anything that equals 74 also equals 444 because you times it by 6. So Jesus, cross, you know, Messiah, gospel, Lucifer, Muhammad, Joshua, Yeshua, English, gematria, what I'm talking about. They all equal 444 in gematria. And this year is 33 years later. And Jesus supposedly died on the cross at the age of 33. So it's an important number to the Jesuit anniversary in regards to how it syncs up in Sumerian gematria. If you remember, Pope Francis even gave a speech in Philadelphia at exactly 4:44 p.m. But the word Pope, and that's why I wanted to show all this, Pope equals 312. Pope Francis's real name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio. Also 312 in the reverse method. And I talked about the founders of the Jesuit order, Ignatius of Loyola. He became a saint on March 12th, 3/12, which also just so happens to be the 71st day of the year, which is fitting because Catholic equals 71. And also Francis Xavier, he died on December 3rd, which in a lot of parts of the world they read it as 3/12. And also this is the 470th anniversary, 77th anniversary of the Jesuits was the day Justin Timberlake was announced to be the halftime show. That also equals 312. So that's why it's important that Janet Jackson's birthday, 3 months, 12 days after the Super Bowl this year, she's going to be 52 years old, and anything that equals 52 in simple gematria also equals 312 in Sumerian gematria. So hopefully I didn't lose you, but it's interrelated. So finishing up here, I pointed out that Nipplegate, or the wardrobe malfunction in Super Bowl 38, I pointed out that Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake's birthdays are 105 days apart, and Nipplegate in gematria equals 105, and in the reverse method equals 165. And look at Janet Jackson's birthday, 16/5, Scottish Rite equals 165. And if you go the other way, that also means their birthdays the opposite way are 260 days apart. 260 plus 105, 365, right? 260 days apart. If you write out Super Bowl 38, it equals 260. So it's so fitting that they would be in the Super Bowl halftime show with some controversy together on the day that it happened, synced up to their birthdays, and synced up to the gematria. One last thing that I don't have completely figured out, but maybe it'll come back up at a future time. We'll start seeing some more of this, but I noticed that Nipplegate was exactly 14 years, 3 days before Super Bowl 52 this year. So Super Bowl 38 was 14 years, 3 days before Super Bowl 52. And that's a lot like 143. And if you go from the 203rd anniversary of Francis Scott Key writing the national anthem, it's a span of 143 days before the Super Bowl this year. And Janet Jackson's album was called Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation 1814. That equals 143 in gematria. So who knows? Maybe we'll start seeing 143 in some other media stories that will be interrelated into this. I really just wanted to get the point across that all of the kneeling stuff is fitting for Justin Timberlake to be in the halftime show because of Janet Jackson and her album that is synced up to, this album with the 1814 because of the national anthem being written that year. That's why Justin Timberlake's going to be at the halftime show. So, leaving it at that. I got a whole bunch of other crap I got to do today. Peace out. Please check out the link in the description. Practice this for yourself. Try to decode media stories. Pick out the keywords, the people's names, what the headline says. If it's a celebrity, look at their birthday and see how many days away they died from their birthday and how it syncs up to their, or whatever the event is going on. See how it syncs up to their birthday and see if it syncs up to their name gematria. And I guarantee you will, you'll be able to see it too. It's not very hard. It happens every single day, all the time. So, have a good one. Peace.